this something I do remember. Remember, I had no training. I got on my tippy toes because now she's like tilted over, and I whisper in her ear, if you don't get in control of your breath, they will want to do a C-section. I remember saying something like that to her. I don't remember exactly because that was 2017. But I just had somehow I knew inside of me that if she calmed down, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, if she calmed down, then her baby would calm down. For whatever reason, I believed that in that moment. And as soon as she found, because of course now she's hyperventilating a little bit because the nurses are elevated. And as soon as she got in control of her breath, her baby's heart rate was able to come down.
We are ready to chat all things doula
Here we go.
life, right? So first of all, Rhonda's amazing. As I said before she came on, you are, and you're gonna have to fill me in all of the things. So you do so many amazing things, but doula trainer, right? You do lactation work. You're an evidence-based birth instructor. You do lots of things. You're a pelvic steam, right? And
Yes.
you're also, one of my favorite things is a BRM teaching assistant. So we have you on staff with us, helping us to really, our teaching assistants do things like the study sessions and what we call tool time. And so you're really getting some smaller group touch points with advanced level BRM practitioners. So welcome. And like
Thank you.
super cool. You do just such a cool myriad of things to support your clients and other professionals. So I love to hear, because that's, people are thinking like, whoa, I'm a new doula. That's something to aspire to. I love to hear kind of the journey that led you to, there's always like these twists and turns, and like what led you to this work and then what led you through to where you are now in the work.
Right. So I don't know if it's something to aspire to because everyone's path is different. Everybody's lane is different. And what I thought you say, and my favorite thing you do, I thought you were going to say, you just became a travel agent because that's
Oh,
all I could think of that was left.
well, it's my personal, right? Because I'm like, we love having Rhonda with us, and we love having you support our people.
Yeah. So, I never heard of the word doula before 2016. That's when I first heard that word. A friend said she was pregnant. Um, and there was a group of us together at breakfast for my birthday, actually. And that's when we found out she was pregnant. And I said, "Oh, can I go?" And then I thought, "Ugh,
What did I just say?
you said that out loud, and now it's in the atmosphere, just trailing away. I'm gonna pretend like I didn't say it." Because I've always loved birth. I used to run after school programs before I moved to Minnesota in 2014. So I've always been around kids, help friends raise their kids. I mean, I was a single person that had a booster seat and a car seat in my back seat because I always
I
had kids
love
with me.
it.
So, but I never heard of doula. I knew I did not want to go back to college. 4 years was enough. And so I never thought would work in birth. So that just sent me on a journey. Because then my friends were like, "Oh, you should be a doula." A what? A doula. You should be a doula. You'd be a great doula. A what? A doula. I'm like, I don't even know the word that you're saying. So like the whole sentence was confusing. So then I just quietly started researching. And if this friend at the time, we probably had been friends 10 years, no, more than 10 years. So of course she was like, "Sure, I have a doula, but you can come." And we'll just ask my husband, who of course didn't care. And so that led me on a journey of researching. And then she told her doula that I would come to the birth. And so the doula invited me to a prenatal visit. So it's the four of us, this prenatal visit. And her doula says, "Oh, it would be great to have another person there to pray and read scripture." And I thought to myself, I've been researching, but I haven't seen anything about prayer and reading scripture in my research.
Yeah.
I was a little confused, but I was like, I mean, I could read some scripture if you want, which we did not read scripture in her birth, by the way. But so then I was like, I guess I don't really know what a doula does because that's what her doula wants me to do. That's the helper doula. So yeah, just kept moving through 2016, and she had her baby in September of 2016. And before that, the doula told me to read the book, The Birth Partner. And I actually read most of it. It's a big book, but I do recommend it because it really helped me to get a baseline as a person who really didn't know anything about birth. And for that to be the first thing I actually read was probably better than me having some ideas about birth first.
Yeah, I hear that for sure.
So I just remembered I was at the Minnesota Birth Center, and I remember everything was going fast, and then there was a plateau, and she's had awful back labor.
Mm.
Um, I remember the doula had a shaking thigh, so I would do a thigh, and she would do a thigh. I now understand, like, we were releasing the pelvic floor, we were releasing
Yes.
and releasing all the things.
Yes. Yes, I
But
love
I
that.
didn't know that back then. She said we were gonna shake a thigh. I shook a thigh. You know.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's where birth started for me. And then I started reaching out to local doula trainers, and I ended up taking a training with Marla, and that was in January. So we go from September to January. So I had started reaching out to people that I knew were pregnant, like church or on social media, like, hey, I'm going to be a doula. Can I come to your birth? Because that's where I started. And so I had this family at church who were pregnant with twins. It was her second pregnancy. And that was going to be it, right? I'm going to go to this birth. She's due at the end of January. My training was beginning of January. So I didn't know anything about twins. So I just assumed I would go to training first. Did not happen. Nope. Did not happen the other way.
I'm sure twins you came before the training, I'm guessing? Yeah.
Yes. So I had the birth in September, Minnesota Birth Center, and then I want to say maybe January 3rd, and my training might have been the 7th, something like that. And I get a call that she's in labor and she's 6 centimeters, which I kind of know what that means, but kind of not.
Right.
The one thing I remember, because we never had an official prenatal because she had her baby too soon, her babies, but I remember her saying, in my first pregnancy, I was really hot and I had my forehead on the cold wall in the bathroom and I didn't want anybody to touch me. So here I am walking down the halls of Abbott Hospital and I'm inside my head, I'm saying, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it.
I can't wait to hear if she wanted to be touched or not. You're, like, holding me on the edge of my seat.
There you go. And so that was my first birth by myself. Well,
Wow. Was
couple days
twins?
before.
Wow.
Yeah, a couple days before my doula training.
Wow.
So her labor, I think, was 6 hours before the first baby was born, and then I think it was about an hour and a half in between the two. And she had an unmedicated twin birth.
Wow.
So, so I have this birth at Minnesota Birth Center, and then I have this unmedicated twin birth. So I'm thinking this is what birth is.
Yeah.
I was so fooled. And so I mostly held her hand the whole time. She never got off the bed if the babies were too heavy. And she held my hand just about the whole time. And so that was how I touched her. Um, so that was my first official first doula birth was right before training. So I was good experience. And then I did my doula training and I found out about the Childbirth Collective and um, a homeless shelter for pregnant moms. And so I went into both of those and Everyday Miracles, a nonprofit. So I did all three of those at the beginning of 2017. And I always say I just hit the ground running because I had multiple moms through the homeless shelter. And then I started having people through Everyday Miracles. And that's how I started.
That's amazing. And so you said, like, the first 2 births, how did that now then you started going to lots of births, how did you see things shift? Like, because I feel you, but mine was almost like the opposite. The first birth I ever attended was, like, I think 3 days after my doula training, and it was the mom actually like, the midwife and my mom knew each other through work, and the midwife, she showed up at St. Joe's, like 1 centimeter or something, not in labor, got sent home with my name, right? And then, like, when she went back into the hospital, I proceeded to support her for 40 hours, and then it ended surgically, and I was thinking, like, I was even you talk about shaking the thighs, no one had taught me to, like, shake anything, but I remember it was in November, I was wearing a scarf and I just took it off and was like, shaking things. Just like, it's like we have some intuition. We don't really know exactly what to do. And then it's like, of course, that made me be like, okay, I need to figure this out. Like, I'm such a nerd. So I'm assuming as you continued attending births, they didn't all go as maybe easily as those first two. Like, what did you start to see and
I
experience?
started to see that I was set up and this is not how birth goes.
Mm,
Because those
you were set up.
the providers and the staff in those first 2 births were just excellent. It was, especially with that unmedicated twin birth,
Yeah.
it's very much like, uh, some of the best care I've ever seen from an OB before, and she was just so like, "Okay, that's what you want. Well, we're gonna go ahead and do that." And I remember her coming in at one point and sitting on the bed. She would always sit on the bed, not stand over her, and she said something like, I know you don't want any medicine, but I just want to let you know that if you want pain medicine, we should consider it now because once baby A is out, if I need to reach in and turn baby B, it's too late to get an epidural. So
Mm,
we need to turn the baby right away. She's like, oh no,
right.
no. And then there was one other point she came in again, really kind. And same thing. We're really close. And I just want you to know that if you want it, I understand you don't want it, but I just have to tell you, like, we're gonna get past that point. And um, yeah, I learned a lot in that birth and of how providers should treat people, like that should be standard of care.
Yeah, for real.
And then once baby A was out, she did reach in and turn baby B and reach in and flipped baby B head down. And then she said, okay, your cervix is 6 centimeters. And she walks out the OR. Let me know when you're ready for the next one. And it was like,
Like calm,
yes,
patient.
she just really trusted the body was gonna do it, and she kept the nurses at bay, and it just was like, "Oh, so mom went to sleep."
Just yeah, you're just thinking like this is how it is, right?
Yes. Right? So that was my start. And then baby B, I don't know, maybe 10 or so minutes, I don't really know the number. Later, heart rate was all over the place, and I think he was just like, no one said to flip me. I didn't give anybody permission."
Right?
And the nurses, they are a little freaked out in the OR. And for twins, you push in the OR. And so
Yeah.
the nurses are a little bit freaking out. The doctor comes back in, just sashaying, nonchalant, and she's like, he's fine, baby's fine. And we turned the bed, so tilted it a little bit. And then this is something I do remember. Remember, I had no training. I got on my tippy toes because now she's like tilted over. And I whisper in her ear, if you don't get in control of your breath, they will want to do a C-section. I remember saying
Mm,
something like that to her. I don't remember exactly because that was 2017. But I just had somehow I knew inside of me that if she calmed down, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, if she calmed down, then her baby would calm down. For whatever reason, I believed that in that moment. And as soon as she found, because of course now she's hyperventilating a little bit
a
because the
little bit.
nurses are elevated. And as soon as she got in control of her breath, her baby's heart rate was able to come down. And then you know what the doctor did? She walked back out. Okay, let me know when she's
Okay,
ready.
we're good. That's so cool to just bring about the fact, like a lot of doulas, and it is important, we'll talk about it later, like to continue your education, but also I spoke at a doula group a few weeks ago and they're like my closing thing to them was like, you are valuable, just you, like you just called that in and out, right? Like you're like channeled that important wisdom for that person in a really like sacred time. I know I'll often say like breathe for your baby, right? Like, let's breathe together, right? Because it really does, like, that does impact things. Think about if you're hyperventilating, like the oxygen exchange, like, it makes a huge difference. Yeah. So,
Yeah, something you
yeah. So,
just said made me think of something. Um I have lately, because I train doulas as well and mentor doulas, and lately I've just been saying a lot. Like, it is not the doula's job to get a vaginal birth, right? And
yes,
we need to be
agreed
present and
completely.
support, right?
Yeah, I mean, and we're not the medical person, right? So I always say that too. Like, if you're tracking like, our job isn't just track our stats in the same way because like, we aren't making the decisions either, like, and what does that family want?
Right.
They might want like, it's not up to us to have an opinion or to, like, get them the birth we think they should have, right? I think that's where we're so aligned. It's like, "No, what is this journey to them, and how can you support it to be empowering and safe?" As we can from our end, right? Like, we're not in charge of safety, but, like, I think the physiological things, just like you said, you helping her regulate her breath, like, that is keeping her safe, right? So I think, yeah, I love that. Keep going on that thread. Like, so what is the doula's, like, how do you see the doula? Because I know now, you have the BRM perspective as well, and I know you probably bring that into a lot of births. I'd love to hear how, like, because some people might be like, "What is BRM?" I kind of know. It's some sort of, like, is it like baby positioning? People always assume it's like baby positioning, right? Or it's like, what can a doula do, like, with this lens, that of awareness?
Right.
Yeah.
I would say multiple things. I I think BRM aligned with what doulas truly are, in my opinion of what doulas truly are, because so our job is not to get a vaginal birth, even if that's what our client wants, because sometimes a
Right.
vaginal birth is not what the safest route is. And BRM aligns with that. I think what BRM does is help birth professionals be more comfortable with the body, because it's not often taught in doula training enough about the body. If nothing else, can we please talk about the pelvis? Like, it's just so important.
Right.
So
The pelvic
having
floor, the pelvis, like, come
yes,
on, right?
right. It's like it's one of the most important parts of the body in birth because the baby has to get through it. And
Right.
so BRM helps doulas just get a basic understanding of the body and the body parts that have anything to do with birth. Also, I would say BRM helps with understanding how the body moves, because um, I'll come back to a story about that. How the body
Yeah, I can't wait.
moves, but then also BRM helps. One of the things you talk about is F the BS, and if you want to know what that is, you just come along and join us in BRM.
Along, yeah.
But talking about F the BS and how we um, help with our own regulation, but also helping with our clients' regulation. And however, wherever they are in their mind is so important. And because BRM
Yes.
talks about the mental state of our client, that helps doulas align with their own selves, hopefully, but then to
Yeah.
even notice their client's mental state. So I think that's another important part. And a big thing that we do as doulas, I'll just say we and not say you, that we do as doulas is it's like we're at a dartboard and we're holding darts with our eyes closed and we're just throwing darts and hoping we hit the target.
It's like double hip squeeze or, like, squat, right? Yeah.
Everybody gets an abdominal lift and tuck. You get it. Everybody gets it's like, oh, can we stop? And so I think that's also something that's really important about BRM is understanding, like, if I do this to the body, this is probably going to be the outcome for right now. I'm not talking about birth outcome, just like in the movement of the body. And so the story I was just thinking of, I had a client, this was her third baby. She was 8 centimeters and she probably been 8 centimeters for like 4 hours, but like not all day. She hadn't been in labor more than like 6 to 8 hours. So it wasn't long. And for whatever reason, the OB told the midwife to come in and start talking cesarean talk to us. And it was just like, wait, what's going on here right now? And so the midwife was great. The nurse was great. And by the way, I asked this family if I could share the story. And so, yeah, we just had this thing going on. And I said to the midwife, can we do some Benadryl in her IV? Because the cervix was it was 8, but a little swollen. And I had decided her baby was in posterior position just based off of all the things I learned. The midwife agreed the baby was posterior, direct OP. And we all know that for the majority of people, being direct OP makes everything longer. And but my thought was, this is gonna be the third time she pushes out a baby. This baby's gonna come out OP if they need to come out OP. Because I
Yeah.
I mean, I do believe that babies whose heads are straight, chins are tucked, and their back is on the left side of their parent, most of those babies are going to come out vaginally. It we're just that they the ones on the left side usually don't get stuck. I don't need anybody to message me and yell at me. I'm just saying that we all
That's just your experience, lived experience.
listen, and if you've been a birth professional long enough, you can agree with those left babies. They just seem to come out easier than back
Yeah.
babies. And so, yes, maybe in a perfect or more perfect world, more babies will be on the left and make it a tad bit easier. However, we know that people have pushed out multiple babies. They can push out a baby in almost any position. So, in my mind, what can I do to help the baby come out, not necessarily to rotate the baby? And
Right. And
so, um, because we're not in control if the baby rotates, we do positions that make space. We hope the baby takes the space we make. That's basically all we can do.
that's true. Yeah, we can control their position. We just invite them into the space we create. That's so
Right.
true.
So that's what we were doing. And so, like I said, a super sweet nurse. She said, "Oh, baby was like 8 minus 1. I don't remember the other number. How thin?" And so the nurse said,
But -1's a more important info, right? Anyway, so
exactly. Exactly why I remember it for the story because the nurse said, "Oh, I just love putting people in flying cowgirl." And she was going on and on about how well flying cowgirl works. And I said, "You know what? I also like flying cowgirl. However, the baby's in the mid pelvis, and because baby's in the mid
yes.
pelvis, I want to open up the middle of the pelvis, but flying cowgirl opens generally is opening up the inlet of the pelvis. Baby's already passed in, through the inlet." And she just looked at me like this.
Like, how do you know that?
And so there's probably 4 or 5 family members over here. The husband's behind me sitting on the tub, and the midwife and and the nurse are over here. So we're like surrounding the bed in a healthy way. And now the family is like looking at me after I said all that. Like, so what are we gonna do?
Yeah, I
I
love
said,
that
you
though. You
know,
were able to like really provide really specific import support rather than like dartboarding it, right?
we can't
It's like, "Oh, I heard flying cowgirl's good, so let's do it." But wait, not always. You know what? I've heard that a lot about flying cowgirl. People learn it and then they just like doesn't matter. They just put someone in it. And yeah, it
exactly.
could if you're opening the top and baby's in the middle, like it might not be helpful. So
Right.
what did you do? I got to hear
Yes.
the whole thing.
So I did a couple things. One of them was she was already on the bed. She did not I don't think she had an epidural at this point, or maybe she had just gotten one. Maybe that's what it was. So I had the ball on the bed and had her leaning over and then got into a lunge. And so we could open up the middle of the pelvis, but she can feel a little bit rested. And we can do some sifting on her lower back. I actually stood up on the bed at one point and on her hands and knees. And I rarely, rarely ever abdominal sift. For me, it's like when you talk about how Watchers is like, that's my Hail Mary at the end. Because the
Yes.
OB was talking about a cesarean, I thought that's going to be my Hail Mary. So
Yeah.
we opened up the
Yeah.
middle of the pelvis and then I would switch and did a couple, not a lot actually, a little bit of sifting abdominally, me standing on the bed over her, and then just had her in that lunge. And the midwife came back in. Oh, also, we did get the Benadryl to help the swelling in her cervix go down. And then I don't know. It wasn't very long, maybe 15, 20 minutes, not 30 minutes later. She felt something different. And I said, "Okay, well, you're going to stay like you are. Exact. Don't move because we're going to stay like this until the midwife comes." And when she checked, her baby was probably +1, +2. And so,
Amazing.
yes. And it was just because I understood the pelvis. And a lot of times now I just try to see how's this baby doing this, and then she had her third vaginal birth, right? I just babies, I mean, people who've had multiple vaginal births, we really need to be making sure if we're talking about a cesarean for progression, we should have tried everything. If this baby did come out direct OP.
It did. Interesting. So there was enough space for that. I mean, like I hear you, but people villainize these positions and yes, they can be more challenging, but also well, if someone learns their OP and then like, well, might as well do a cesarean. Wait, or we could have someone like Rhonda who can have some birth detective skills to be like, but where's the baby and how do I make space for them to come down? Like, what tissues are they interacting with? How can I help those tissues to like let go, right? And yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of people think, oh, the doula's job is just to hold the hand and give sips of water. Not just, because that's so important, right? Like holding the space should not, like you said, the F is flow, like is the nervous system. Like number one is their safety and their mental state. But
Right.
there's also more, and like I bet you could tell a million more stories of births where you didn't need to do all of that, right? Like you're like, all I did was hold their hand and that's all they needed, or all I did was not all I did. I'm not lessening it, but it's like different births need different things. So I feel like it's worth it for all of us to have kind of a deeper awareness. And I'm actually shocked that even OBs aren't trained in pelvic biomechanics. Like it blows my mind.
Really difficult. It's really difficult, it's really difficult when, um, like I just had an OB a client who ended up getting a cesarean, and the OB did come in to try to internally rotate the baby. And this OB just really knew her stuff as far as fetal position, because sometimes people say fetal position and it's like, you know, um, and I've had some really, really good experiences with OBs who really understood the biomechanics, and then they may even say, "Okay, well, just do whatever your doula tells you because I know they're going to get your baby out," type of thing. And then the flip of it, where you're not sure if the OB understands if the baby's even on the left or the right, you know? Um, but for me, so you mentioned about station being more important to know. For me, I think about station and fetal position. Where's the back of this baby and how low in the pelvis is the baby? And I would like a number, and don't tell me the word low. And I
Yes.
can take those two things. I mean, obviously we can think of things without it, but those two things for me make a huge difference.
Help you just know what to do. I love that. So I love, um, and that's, I think, you say like some of the OBs get it, some of the midwives, some doulas get it. And I think the ones who get it are the ones who are willing to continue to grow, right? And that's every profession and anything that's life, right? Life is growth, is continually learning. I honestly feel every year if I don't like learn something new about birth or the body, or because it's constantly there's always more to know and learn and take in. I don't feel as good. Like I feel happy when I'm learning, and I think that's part of being a good doctor or a good midwife or any profession is being willing to not just stay, or like physical therapists, right? The ones who are still just giving someone hundreds of Kegels a day, but it's because that's what they learned in PT school 25 years ago, but we now know if they've been continuously learning and growing, like, that's not ideal. So, yeah, I love that, like, lifelong learning. I'd love to hear, because you train doulas too. I'd love to hear just your advice for a new doula or someone who's thinking about getting into birth work of, like, I don't know, whatever comes to your brain when I say that question.
Yeah, the first thing is it's not about you. It is throughout our doula training, we say that phrase so many times. As a matter of fact, part of the certification with us, so write a short essay of what it's not about you means as a doula. Like that's how
I
important.
love
Like
that.
that is just it's not about you. Well, I could have, after a birth, we can think through and we debrief the birth, and we should debrief it with other birth workers, and we can think of what we did and maybe some other things we could have tried. It's all a part of the process.
Of course.
And then you need to drop it. If you're still weeks down the line talking about, "Oh, I should have done this," and that, you have centered yourself. Decenter yourself on someone else's birth, right? It's not about what else I could have done to get a different outcome or to make it be different, because it's not my birth. Even though we make suggestions and recommendations and we help them ask good questions, it's still not about us. And whatever happens has nothing to do with us unless we're overstepping, which we shouldn't be. So that's the first thing I would say is it's not about you. Another thing is my advice, take more trainings. You don't have to do 5 doula trainings. That's not what I mean. And some people are doing that and that's their business, but you don't have to keep taking everybody's doula training. But find other workshops, trainings that will be supportive to the birth work you're doing. And so maybe you take a 45-hour lactation certification, or maybe you take a CST course, or maybe you're going to take BRM. Like I'm trying to get everybody to take BRM. Um,
Yeah.
maybe you took BRM and you took Gilligan's Guide and you went to a spinning babies training.
Yeah.
And
They're all lovely, right? And they all feed each other. Like it's all the same. Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
So
I love that.
that's my other thing is helping people to realize keep learning. Like for example, I'm slowly doing this at your own pace um, birth assistant training. Do I plan to go become a birth assistant full time? Absolutely not. But I just like learning, and then different
That's me too.
different types of trainings are going to teach you something from a different angle. And so, people are always saying, you know so much. Why won't you just become a midwife? Because why is it not okay for me to just be a doula?
Yeah, that's the thing. People always think doula is the bridge to midwife, and I'm like, I love, and it's not a hierarchy, right?
Right.
I'm like, I love them. We're friends with midwives, right? We love midwives, and we love being doulas, right? They don't contradict each other, and one is not one. And to be honest, like they have, I work on their bodies. It's a stressful job in a different way, right? Like, and so not everyone's called to that. Some people are very much called to that, and some of us, and I think like you and me, we're like the doula lifers. We're like,
Yes. I'm going to be over here
I
on this
love,
side educated. Why can't we just be educated people in whatever field we
yes,
feel called to? And this is where I'm supposed to be. And I think taking other trainings, I've been to a midwifery conference before, I've done NRP certification, I've done so many different things. And what I believe that makes me a better doula, a better childbirth educator, and a better doula trainer because I have an understanding of things a little bit broader than what people normally teach a doula. And I think things that should be added into doula trainings are things like fetal position in the pelvis. I also think we should be teaching doulas about fetal heart tones. So many things happen in pregnancy and birth. We should be teaching doulas about hypertensive disorders, right? And I
yeah,
think
not because we're gonna tell our clients what to do, right? It's that so that we're informed, so that we can support their being
right,
informed,
right.
right?
Yes, because clients want us to help answer questions for them. And so many doulas are like, I don't know anything about that. And that's okay. And I think part of a doula's role is to help clients come up with questions to ask to their providers. And if we had a baseline on some of these really common topics, it's going to help doulas be better doulas.
I love that. I love that. It's about, I feel like it's all about what, like, basically, like, the gist of it is like hone your craft, like, keep honing your craft, right? This is your medicine. This is like what you're meant to serve and put into the world. And so you owe it to yourself to just keep showing up and whatever passion it is. Like I didn't do a lot of lactation stuff, but I did a lot of body work training and different things. Like just follow the part of it you like, because some people are going to be like the lactation expert doula, and maybe other people are going to be like, I love pelvic biomechanics. I think we should have a baseline of all of it. Don't get me wrong, I've breastfed for 12 years. I can help someone with it, but I'm not, if they need advanced support, I'm going to send them to you or someone else. But yeah, I think it's just so important, and I love, I think it keeps us more centered in the work too, and one thing that that you didn't bring up, but you're really good at, that I don't think every doula is as good at, including myself, is self-care. Because I find, right, like it's stayed in my brain that Rhonda had, and maybe you've changed this, but and maybe I'm making this up, but my brain is like, you have it in your, like worked in that you get a massage after a birth, right? Like you take care of your own body. Like, can you? I just want to hear your self care because I think the doulas need to hear, like, or just give us your like spiel on doula self care.
Yeah, I think self care and boundaries go hand in hand. And I don't think as a profession we have enough of either. And
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people talk about burnout. And then when we talk about burnout to that extent, then we need to figure out what are we not doing for ourselves that allows us to get that far, right? Because, for example, this was a really busy weekend. I had doula training, which is Thursday night to Sunday night. And then I had 2 clients go into labor, and, someone close to me is sick. So I had all these layers of things, right? And so at some point, I have to spread out and space out. So when the second client called me saying my water broke and she's 33 weeks and 6 days, I said, "I'm gonna call another doula." That was my response. Like, I can't even allow myself to go through the brain energy it takes to have too big of a conversation because I have no capacity. And that's self-care because of boundaries, right? And so I found a doula at 6 a.m. and I created a group chat so that I could see it if I wanted, but I did mute it. So I wasn't getting notifications. And I'm gonna send some money to that doula and I'm gonna let her have this day.
Nice.
Right? And so I missed part of doula training that day because I was at a birth, but then I slept until 1 a.m. when that other family called me. And my boundary was if I can sleep from late afternoon to midnight, I'm okay to go to the birth after midnight. And of course, she called at 1 a.m.
Oh, of course.
Yes. So it was like such a busy weekend. And if you don't have boundaries, you can't care for yourself well. And so I only do interviews on Mondays. So the link people click on to, oh, it's Wednesday in Minnesota. I hear.
I know, I was just gonna say, if anyone hears an alarm, we both live in Minnesota, and the first I'm like I was thinking, "Oh, of course, it's the first Wednesday of the month." They're testing our tornado sirens.
Right.
But yeah,
So on the link that people click on to my calendar to schedule interviews, it only shows them Mondays. And I don't do any clients can't schedule on Fridays and Saturdays on my calendar. So I work Sunday through Thursday on a normal week. And so that is probably my first shield of protection is, oh, it's not on the calendar. If a friend says hey, let's go out to eat, I'll look and see if I'm available, and then I'll say, you send me a calendar invite because if it doesn't go on my calendar, it's not a thing. And so,
it doesn't exist to me either. Yeah, put it on my calendar or I'll completely forget.
yep, yep, we're going for a walk. Send me a calendar invite.
Yes,
And
I
so
love that.
I have a membership to Amur Holistic Healing, and so I get massages twice a month. And then if I need an extra one, I can fit that in. I go to the chiropractor twice a month. I have taken a break from going to the stretch zone, but I'm going to start back this summer. So I go to the stretch zone, similar to the stretch lab, and I get professionally stretched twice a month. And then I love cupping, so I'll go get cupping at my acupuncturist um every couple months. So that's
I
how
love
I take
that.
care of my body. And I believe in vacations. And so this is even before I became a travel agent, right? So I just started this travel agent thing in March.
That's good to know. I actually did not know that.
Yes. I just started in March because I'm like, I'm paring down my schedule a lot because I need to have this is also self-care. I need to have more diversity in what I'm thinking about and what I'm focusing on. Um and I'm 45 and single and I feel like that means I should be traveling. And so it just kind of
Yes, absolutely.
led me into the travel agent business. So that website is coming soon. However, that's part of my self-care was realizing I needed to shift things. And so I am currently only my website says I'm taking only oh wait, no. I'm not taking any new to me clients. That's what it says. So, if I know you in community, if you've taken my class, if you were my doula client before, you I can be your doula. But right now I'm not taking people I don't know. And that was another self-care thing because as I'm teaching more childbirth education, we're doing 4 doula trainings a year.
Yeah, you're in a different season, right? I feel like it's a new season.
Yes, and I do a lot of community advocacy. So, community aware birth worker is my teaching business that I have a teaching partner with, and we currently have a contract with Minnesota Department of Health and Department of Human Services, 2 different contracts, and Hennepin Health and Ramsey County, and so we're doing community work in a different way right now, and we're working on Medicaid reimbursement for doula. So it's like we're both getting older and we're doing this. this type of birth work over here that's not going to births and doing prenatal visits. And so taking less doula clients because this is the season to do a lot of community advocacy and helping to make change in different ways, right? And so in that, it's like, okay, so what do I need to drop in order to be able to move into this next season? So I'm not working with Everyday Miracles anymore, which is our a local nonprofit, birth nonprofit. And then there are some classes I was doing at different places in the cities that I'm not doing anymore. And so it's like I'm paring things way down. This postpartum home visiting pilot I've been doing for a year. That's ending next month. So now, like with this extra time, we know there's no such thing, but
Yeah.
with the extra time and the way I've pared my schedule down, that's where I thought, let me do something else on the side. And that's where the travel agent stuff came in. So I'm mixing a lot of things, but in a different way.
I love it because what I hear is like you're following the things that you enjoy and you're trying like if we and you're in a different season and you know it's very similar path for me of like so many births for so many years and as I've slowly pared down to repeat clients and then it's like even passing those off just because I'm busy doing the other part of the journey but I think what that shows people is that like I think this work is dynamic and it can shift and I see a lot of people, you know, as they come in to become BRM pros, they're like, "Oh, I can make money." I know money is always an icky word in this, but I can go to births and lots of births, or I can also, if a season looks different, I can do less births and more complementary stuff like BRM sessions or like lactation or whatever it may be that they're passionate about. They can still like support this work, but it doesn't always have to be in one specific way. So I think that's really important for people to hear, especially because being on call is so hard and it's a season and yeah. So I love to hear just like final words of wisdom for people. I know you already gave words of wisdom to doulas, but like, I don't know, just something that you want to end with of like some words of wisdom from your time. You know, it's been a lot of years that you've been doing this work. I feel like I just want to soak up all Rhonda's wisdom.
Yeah, I think it's okay to not have a big number of births attended. Now, I obviously I've been to a lot of births, but like the path that I was taking, I would be at 300 births so fast. And I think it's going to take me a long time. I'm actually close to 300, but the way I'm paring myself down, it's like, don't make that kind of stuff your goal. I'm trying to have
Yeah,
this
like
many
you're
births.
worthy. I feel like it's a worthiness. People think like I'll finally feel like a good enough doula when I get to this.
And it's not, it's not
No.
true. It,
No.
did you support your client to the best of your ability the way they wanted to be supported? Then that's more of a goal,
That's a win.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
I love that.
I'll say again that the goal is not to get a vaginal birth. I do want to share a quick story about that. I don't know if I've said this to you before, but last summer I ended up going to a birth for someone who had been in a program I wasn't her doula, and she was going for a VBAC. Her older kid is 4 or 5, so it's like, oh, the likelihood of you getting a VBAC when you had that much time to heal is really high, right? And so she had called me at like 11 o'clock at night and said her water broke. And I said, okay, so what are you going to do? I asked some water questions, but she said, I'm in the tub. And I said, okay, you're in your bathtub, your water broke. That's your plan. And then I went back to sleep. I got a call from her maybe 2 a.m. So 11 p.m. her water broke, big contraction. Around 2 a.m. she calls me. They want me to have a C-section. I was like, wait, I thought you were at home. Like,
Yeah.
when did you, like, I'm so lost. I'm discombobulated because it's 2 a.m. and I'm confused. But she was 6 centimeters and she just, she's distraught because she's 6 centimeters and that's so close to a vaginal birth. So anyway, I'm asking as many questions as I can really quickly. I'm like getting up because I know I need a shower now and all the things. And asked her who the midwife was on call, and it was actually her midwife, which we know that doesn't normally happen.
Yeah, that can be real.
And I said, I really want you to consider if your midwife, who you trust the most, is saying you need a cesarean, that you need to consider it. And because of course I can't say you have to do this because I don't know what else
Yeah, you
going
don't know,
on.
you don't have info. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so I said, if you need to have a cesarean, she was at Methodist Hospital and they're gonna let me in the OR. So if that's what you need to do, you need to do it. But like ask these questions, get understanding. She said the word flat to me. So this goes back to how I really believe that doulas need a baseline understanding of fetal heart tones. Because a baby whose heart tones are flat, even if it's in the good range, that is showing that the baby's not getting enough oxygen. Right. And so and when she said flat, I was like, "Oh, I really want you to consider this cesarean and, ask the good questions, but do you want me to come? Okay, I'm gonna go get dressed." So I go to get dressed, and then it just clicks in my mind that I need to send a text. So I sent a text that said, "If you need a cesarean, please do not wait for me because I don't need to be there."
Right. Of course.
Right? And so the husband responds, "I see your text message. I'm going to tell her." So I get in the shower and get dressed and get to the hospital. I'm going to fast forward for a moment. When I went to the postpartum visit, she said, "I only had a C-section because you told me to." And I said, "Well, honey, I didn't tell you to." And that's not what I said. I was telling you to consider what your provider's saying and ask good questions. But when I sent that text message saying, "Don't wait for me, they'll bring me back. If you need to go, just go." That was the moment that it clicked in her head that, oh my gosh, I might need the C-section. They're not just telling me this just to tell me because it's a hospital.
Right. And that is what people get in their mind sometimes is like, oh, it's just them always forcing it.
Yes. So
Not
not
always.
always. Sometimes you need it. The end of the story is I did make it before she was taken back because I live really close. And we get back into the OR. Everybody's being very nice, right? OB who had to come in, the midwife, the nurses, everything is great. We get back to the OR. It's a normal, we didn't run back, so it was a normal, we're gonna go back there. I hear the OB saying some words, and I'm like, wait, what she saying? And she was saying something about the bladder. So after I say to the OB, "What were you saying about the bladder?" And she said, "When I opened her up, the only thing holding the baby in was her bladder." And I was like,
Wow.
"Come again?"
Was there like a rupture?
She ruptured and did not have the signs of a rupture.
Oh, wow.
We think she
Yeah.
actually ruptured at home. Her uterus ruptured. Yes, for those who are like,
Yeah.
"What do you
Yeah.
mean rupture?" Her uterus ruptured. So her
No, not the
water
bladder.
had
Yeah. Yeah.
broken, but it didn't all the way break. And if her water would have broken all the way, they probably would not have made it to the hospital alive, right? So
Wow.
she was at the hospital for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before they called the cesarean. And what am I? Why am I saying this story? My biggest recommendation to doulas is mind your business because this mom thinks I told her to have a C-section, which I did not. I told
Yeah.
her to
Totally.
consider what her provider was saying and let's ask these questions so you understand. But let's just take it. She thought I told her to do it, right? If I would have told her, "Wait for me, you don't have to do that. You're 6 centimeters, you're so close. Don't let them
They're
do
just
that."
trying to mess with you and make more money, right?
They would be dead.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing for doulas to hear.
Yes, they would be dead. If she waited another who knows how many minutes, 30, 60 minutes even, she or her baby might be dead. Because we know in a uterine rupture, it's an emergency. And oftentimes in a uterine rupture, oftentimes in uterine rupture, the baby is shot up into the torso and there's a huge hemorrhage and she didn't have any of that. And we don't know how many more minutes she had, right? It would not have been my fault if something bad had happened. That's not what I'm saying. But what I want doulas to hear is this. We need to be careful. We need to be
Absolutely.
careful because we can say, "Oh, I don't tell my clients what to do," but we make them feel a certain way. And I feel really good that my response was, if your midwife is telling you need a cesarean, you need to consider it and ask questions. Right. And the fact that I didn't say it right away, but like I said, I went back and sent another text before I got in the shower and said, "Don't wait for me."
That was your intuition, right? Your intuition said that. You know, I had actually also at Methodist, interestingly, I had like a client who was like, "Oh, we're just gonna like it's just gonna go so like smooth and she's so well prepared in all of these ways." And then some weird stuff happened, and when she did get the cesarean, um, the placenta was like, there was just some weird stuff where we're like, well, clearly this is the way this birth needed to go, right? And so sometimes you don't see that until afterwards. So yeah, stay in your scope for sure. But I like that you understand and suggested like learn the medical stuff, not so you can tell your clients what to do, but with being a doula, there is a responsibility because if we say our opinion, they're gonna take it, right? And so, and we don't always know. Yeah. So I love that. And I think, and the fact that that's what you said is just shows that you're like, you've done it. You've been to a lot of births. I think sometimes people get trained in this birth support by someone who's like not been to all the different types of births because stuff happens and it's really important to understand how to serve our clients regardless of what's going on. So I'm just giving you those tools of support. And sometimes, like you said, you're going to do just the right movement or release or thing. And you're going to be like, yeah, we helped this baby get through like your first story. And then sometimes you're going to walk someone through a really challenging situation that is not the way they wanted it to go, but it is the way it needed to go. And like, how do we hold the space for both? And how do we keep ourselves from like taking ownership of both of those outcomes,
Exactly.
right? Because just like we can't own those negative or more challenging situations, we also can't be like, look at me, I'm the reason that this happened, right? That's like ego. So I love that you kind of bring it. I love that you share both of those because I feel like it just highlights we can stack the cards in their favor and we can help support the journey, but then we let go and allow, like, we're just the trip sitter, just helping you through this journey of
Right.
transformation.
It's so important that we take our hands off of other people's situations. Because
Life skills.
yeah, like the what the body is doing, no one actually has control over what the body is doing during that labor, right? And there's things happening in the body. There's a hormone cocktail inside from the brain, and then we have another human being. This baby is making a whole lot of choices, right?
Yep.
The birth that I told you I had this weekend, I had to step out of the room and let tears fall. I mean, we were all exhausted, but also it's like
Yeah.
I really wanted a vaginal birth for this family, and it wasn't safe. The baby's heart rate was in the 180s and staying. The mom's heart rate was in the 140s and 20s and 140s and staying. Like at some point, we need to say, both of you are getting sick, right? And so
Thank goodness we have these medical interventions for
when
when
they
they're
need,
truly needed.
and then
Yes,
it's
I
great
love
when we
that.
don't need them, but they just stay way far away from us. But I
Exactly, and we have tools like you shaking the thighs or finding the right position in case, like, so that we don't have to always just jump to the cesarean or just jump to the pitocin. We can try more physiological, safer, with less risk things, and then, maybe we still need that, and that's okay. Yeah, I think I love seeing this because you're making it's not so black and white. There's like it's kind of this myriad, this range. It's just a little more dynamic than what we and nuanced, right? Than we give
so
it credit
nuanced.
for.
It's so nuanced. And that's why I really believe it's dangerous for doulas to be 100% against interventions. Because imagine I talk so badly about Pitocin all the time on social media to my clients in my classes, and then your client needs it and you're trying to convince them to get it, to consider it, but you've already
Yeah.
talked so bad about it for their whole pregnancy.
How much it makes it hurt more. Yeah,
Yeah,
all
and
the things.
then it
Yeah.
makes families confused and they're saying no to the interventions they probably medically need. And by the time they say yes, we might be in a negative place. And so that's probably like my closing, like really important things. It's
Yes.
not about you. I don't understand how you can be a really, really, really good doula and you're 100% anti all interventions. Like that is so unsafe. And, we can go stories and stories and stories and stories and stories about when an intervention saved a life, And so just really take the time to think, what other topics do I want to learn more about it to be a better doula? And then look for those workshops. A lot of workshops are expensive. And then we can find similar workshops that are cheaper if we just look around more and ask more questions. And shoot, ask for a scholarship. People might have a scholarship if we ask nice. Do you have a scholarship? So those are some of the big things that I would say is like really educating yourself. Again, things I think people should learn about is the pelvis and how the baby and the pelvis interact with each other throughout the birthing process. Um, Fetal heart tones. I'm going to just talk about this as long as I can to doulas need to understand the basics of fetal heart tones. Actually, Jen Hamilton, she's a labor and delivery nurse. She has a really good video on a real whatever on her Instagram page, whatever you call that video, that talks about it, and that could be really helpful if people can't find a class that's appropriate. Um, Bundle birth nurses, they do let doulas take classes sometimes. I just took their fetal heart tones and their pitocin course this year, and so it was just like a one day, like a 2-hour workshop. But like just think about what you want to know more about and then find it.
Love it. Mic drop. Yeah, keep being curious. And Rhonda, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. And we are excited to have you as a teaching assistant again this year for BRM. So thank you.